Salutations, YouTubers. Your friend the Film Doctor here, and today I want to show you how you can modify a Super Nintendo to run off a 5-volt power supply like this using a USB instead of the old 40-pound charger that comes with the system back in the 90s. Okay, so first I want to say this process is fairly easy, but any project that deals with electricity is potentially dangerous enough to kill you. With that being said, please be extremely careful and attempt this only if you have a decent handle on circuitry. If you have never used tools like a wire stripper, a soldering iron, or a multimeter, you may want to avoid this as a first project. In fact, I highly suggest you do not ever try this if it's your first time opening any kind of electronic. You might want to practice on something a little bit less complicated. But either way, I'm not even an expert, so I'm not even going to try to explain the science behind how or why this works. I'm just going to show you how it's done, because I couldn't find a video that already explains this. I wanted to circuit bend a SNES, and in the process I accidentally fried the MC7805C chip that converts your 10-volt power into 5 volts or whatever it actually runs on. I can't remember off the top of my head what they said. Can you see inside here? This right here, let me use demonstration. Here we go. If you look here, this is your chip, the MC7805. Okay, this is what we're going to be attempting to locate. So, in the process, like I said, I burn out the chip, and I didn't want to wait on a new chip in the mail, so I was looking for an alternative. There wasn't much info out there, but someone on a forum had postulated that it was theoretically possible. So I tried it. It worked, and I would assume this type of application could be used on other video game systems. However, I have not tried it at this moment, although I may attempt in a future video for N64. For this project, you will need a charging port like this that plugs into a USB. You'll need a USB that you're not using anymore, such as a micro USB, which looks like the small flat one like this. You can use the mini USB, which is a little bit bigger than the micro. This is what I used the first time I did this, and it has 4 wires in the wire. So as you can see here, I've got 2 extra wires hanging out that don't do anything. These are to send and receive data, but we just want the power from the cord, so we don't need those. For this project, you will need a USB that's long enough to reach from the power supply to your system. So wherever you want to plug it into the wall at, you need a cord that's going to be long enough to reach from the wall when you plug it in to go into your system here. Okay, so if you need to, you can always add extending wires, but I'm not going to do that for you right now. I just want to show you quickly how this can be done. I'd like to mention, please do not use your phone charger, okay, like your iPhone charger, too many wires, too easily confused. I would not suggest, can you see that? I would not suggest it. Okay, see how many wires are in this? It's too much work. Yeah, so don't use your mom's or your wife's phone charger for this. Also, you'll need some alligator clips. I like the ones that are connected together like this, because they already have the wire inside here. Okay, if you pull this thing back, you can see the wire is attached. That's just how it comes. Came in a set. They're really cheap if you buy them online. You can get these alligator clips at places like O'Reilly or AutoZone or wherever they sell auto parts. Generally, they're in the section that has switches and things for car stereos or whatnot. Okay, so if you don't have any of these or you can't find some, I would suggest going to one of those places or just buying some on the internet. Okay, there are other ways to do this, but this is the way I found it. It's probably the easiest. Okay, so you're gonna need at least 2 of those. I like to use different colors. Today I'll probably use a black one and a green one. Black for the hot wire and then green for ground. You can use electrical tape, or you can use these little shrink wrap tubing things. So you'll need all of that, plus the most important part, which is the screwdriver. I know it's really going to be hard to see, but this bit here is a special bit for opening these video game systems that have a special screw in the back that's kind of, it's like a star shape sort of with a nub in the center. It's really a locking type screw so that people and kids especially wouldn't open these things and get into them and then render them unplayable or not working anymore. So they put these things on a lot of different electronics, but they're really hard to find. They're hard to find these bits. I went ahead and bought a kit from Home Depot. It's made by iFixit. Okay, it comes in this nifty little case. It's magnetized. It's got your screwdriver. It's got an extender that bends in case you need to get into some kind of funny position. It's got like 64 bits, I think. I counted earlier, I believe it was 64. Anyway, so I just went ahead and bought this at Home Depot. Might have been able to get it cheaper if I wanted to wait on, you know, the mailman to come, but buying stuff like that can take anywhere from a few days to maybe a few weeks, depending on where you order it from. So rather than wait, I just went ahead and went to Home Depot for 40 bucks. It's really not that bad of a deal. I've spent 40 bucks on worse stuff. So I'm not, you know, sponsored by iFixit or Home Depot by any means, but I would recommend this product just because it's got so many different bits here. You could almost get into anything you wanted to. I think that's what it was marketed for. I don't have the packaging anymore, but either way. So as you can see, I've got 2 Super Nintendos here. This one here is mine from when I was probably about 13. I traded a TV for a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis, and or maybe it was a VCR. I think I traded a VCR because I had 2 of them. Either way, thanks Kevin and Andrew for your Super Nintendo, because I've had lots of great use out of it. However, I wanted to circuit bend a Super Nintendo, but I didn't want to accidentally break mine and ruin it by any means, which I almost did here, which is why I'm trying to explain this to you. So as you can see, I have 2 Super Nintendos. This one I've had over 20 years. The other I've had like 2 years. I got this one from somebody on Facebook Marketplace with the intention of circuit bending. I'm going to open mine to show you what screws you need to remove so you can get to this point. Okay. You may also want to have a soldering iron in case you want to make it a permanent installation. If you want to make this a permanent fixture in your console, you're probably going to need one of these. The alligator clips will hold up, but solder is a lot better at making things permanent, which there's also a lot more room for error. So you be the judge of your soldering and your electrical skills or whatever. I'm not a great solderer. I'm not great at soldering. Okay, so that's why I have not soldered my own wire onto this yet, and I'm still using alligator clips. This is my first instructional YouTube video, so you'll have to bear with me. I want to make it as short as possible, but detailed enough so even your grandma can follow these steps, just in case she loves Super Mario World but gets tired of lugging around this 5-pound AC adapter when she's traveling. So let's dive right in. Alright, first thing you want to do is take your handy dandy screwdriver. So you'll actually need the G4.5 bit to open this. We can get rid of these things. Never going to use one of these again. In fact, I've already replaced several other power supplies with a USB adapter, because once you find out this is possible for one application, you may actually want to do this for more things in the future. I'm working on a megaphone project, and I have switched it from 9-volt battery power to where it runs off a power supply similar to this. So anyway, let's get right to the heart of this thing. Here's your Super Nintendo classic 1990 SNES. Okay. There may have been screws in here at one point. If they were, they're probably just regular Phillips head bits. The ones we're worried about today there are 6 of them on the exterior. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just going to take these out. So let's use a little dish to collect our screws here. Okay, let's just go in order. I said 1, 2, 3, we'll go 2. What's nice about these is that, this screwdriver is magnetized, so they just kind of jump right out of there, usually. So, halfway there now. Number 5. number 6. Alright, now that we have those screws out of the way, we want to try to open this thing up. If you look in here, this is just, I think it's an external port to run something in directly into your sound card. Okay, so when you take those screws out and flip it over, the top's just gonna come right off of there, just like that, you see? Okay, you don't need to really touch that again until you are putting the screws back in later. Okay, so pretty dusty in there, being 30 something years old. Okay, so as you can see, when you look in here, if this is all you want to do to the system, you do not have to take out a bunch of other stuff. Okay. See, I was circuit bending this one, so I took all these extra pieces out of here so I could access these chips and see which circuits I could bend together. But since we're not worried about that, we don't need to do that. Okay, so what I've done to this one is take out the on-off switch. Okay, so basically, if you want to continue using the on-off switch, you'll have to cut these and then wire them straight into one of these lines, or you can just find a different switch somewhere, okay, and add that one. Because what we're going to do is directly bypass your, if you look in here, your power plugs into this hole here. Okay, the power comes in, it runs into this chip after this switch here. So if you the way mine is over, the way the alterated one, the way the modified one is, there's no use for this switch anymore because the power runs directly into the board, which is past this point in the circuit. So what we're going to do is attach the hot wire, or in this case I used red for hot and black for ground. So today, I think we're using, I'll do black and green. Green is going to be ground today. So hopefully you can see this okay. You want to attach your ground clip to the screw here, because the screw on this chip is attached to the ground. Okay? You can see it's labeled I, G, and O. So I would be your input, G will be your ground, and O is your output. In this case, we need our ground. You can actually hook this to any piece of metal on this whole system. I was using this Nintendo as a ground for another project, and all I did was clip an alligator clip to the side of here. Okay. Anyway, so your ground clips to your ground wire clips to the screw at the top, and your where'd it go? Your other wire, your black one or red one or whatever color you have, or even if you're not using colors, whatever your hot wire is coming in, this one needs to hook to the lead on the right side. It goes 1, 2, 3. You want the third one on this side. So down here, you're going to hook you'll hook this one up to that right there. Okay? Make sure it's not touching anything else. Okay? You don't want it to short out and just go straight to ground. You want the power supply separate. So, if you can see here, hopefully you can see, we've got the ground connected here, we've got the hot wire connected there. Now what you'll need to do is get the wire that you're going to use. Let's move this over a little bit. I didn't mention this before, but obviously you definitely don't want to do this while the system is plugged in, okay? So make sure you don't leave this plugged into the system to work on it. That should be fairly obvious, but I don't know. I've seen some people do some stupid things before, and even I am guilty of some of them. So I want to make sure you guys do the safe thing and don't hurt yourselves. Moving on, we have our micro USB, okay, the really flat one. You probably got 100 of these lying around your house, because when you buy an electronic, they generally give you cords, but they don't give you very many of these. They don't always give you one of these AC adapters. So make sure your AC adapter is going to plug into this thing, okay? We'll leave that to the side for now. All we want to do, this cord's fairly short, but this is for demonstration purposes only anyway. So what I'm going to do is cut this right here, okay? We cut this. Okay, what you could do is use one of these if you have a 5-volt power supply. You could cut the wire here. Well, you'd want to cut this part off and then attach these to this part of your cord. Here we have a mini USB. I'm going to cut this part off to show you what's inside of here. And it's also got 4 wires. Well, either way, I cut one the other day and it only had 2 wires in it, and so that's what I was trying to do today, but both of them had 4 wires in them, like my original one here. So we'll just go ahead and pick one of them. You'll take your wire strippers and you'll strip the wire depending on what size the wire is, it may go in a different hole. You try to do this to where you're not going to cut anything besides the exterior housing. Okay, so as you can see, we have 4 wires inside our USB line. Okay, we want to use the red one and the black one. Okay, we're not going to use the green or the white for this project. So what we want to do is strip away on these tiny wires. They can be a little bit difficult, especially with these big tools. They make small strippers, but you can't get a discount because they're smaller. Anyway, just peel back this cotton, the cotton lining they have in here. You just want the wires poking out. You can cut that stuff off if you want to. That didn't work. Here, let's get some scissors here out. You can cut this stuff off so it's not in your way. Okay, so we've got our black, which is our ground, and we've got our red, which is our hot wire. Okay, so our power comes in through the red, and our red one needs to connect to the right side of our chip over there, and then the black one needs to attach to the ground. Next, we take our alligator clip things. If you have these kind, the easiest way I've found to take these things on and off is to open them like this, let it pinch your fingers a little bit, put pressure with these fingers on this, and then you can slide this back on, no problem. Okay. But what we're going to do is take our wires. I'm just going to cut them in half because I'll probably use these again for something else. You can use scissors if you want to for wires that are this thin. Shouldn't affect the scissors unless they're extremely cheap. I do not suggest using scissors to cut most wires, but these are so small that it's not going to hurt your scissors in most cases. So we just need 2 of these. We're going to strip both of these. Okay. What I like to do is just twist the wire clockwise. Okay. That way it's a nice tight band and you don't have these frays hanging out. Okay, so I usually just twist it clockwise, that way I don't forget. And I turn one wire one way, one wire the other way, and then when you mix them or when you attach them together, you don't want them to come apart. Okay, so we've got all our wires are ready now. Okay, shouldn't need those anymore. Okay, so next, I'll show you how to do this with both electrical tape and some of this shrink wrap tubing, just in case you have one but not the other. I'll just go ahead and show you both ways. With the shrink wrap, you just want to make sure it's going to fit over not only the wire, but the original wire housing, like this green part. This black one won't fit over it, so you want a bigger piece. It would work for these, but not this wire. So you want to get one that's going to just barely fit over your bigger wire. If you get one too big, though, it's not going to shrink wrap. It's not going to shrink right over your wire. So let's see if this yellow one will fit. Maybe, probably not. Sometimes you can use these as a grabber, kind of thread it in there. Okay, remember we're doing our green line today as the ground. So the green one needs to hook up to the black, which is our ground. Okay, I like to come pretty close to let the wires get pretty close and then start twisting them together like this. Oops, we forgot we'll just use tape for this one then, since it's our ground. Twist this all together like so. I usually like to bend it once and then twist it around a few more times if I can. And then I'll lay the wire down flat to tape it. Here we go. I've got some. Let's use black tape for the black and green line. You don't need a lot of tape, really. It's just to keep the signals from crossing. Okay, so just kind of tape it together. You don't need to go crazy and wrap it like 100 times. So I don't know how many times I've had to undo these types of things because I made the wrong connection somewhere. Shouldn't happen in this case, but you never know. Okay, so here I'll take my other one. We'll thread this down over the wire, and then we'll do the same thing here. Get the wires pretty close together, just twist them like this. Twist them as many times as you can. And I like to just give it that extra fold. Spin it a few more times. The more wire you leave hanging out, the easier it is, but sometimes you have too much, so I usually try to leave about an inch to work with. So I'll lay this down toward the I'll lay this down toward the smaller line. Got to be careful with these wires because they are very sharp and they will make you bleed if you aren't careful. So what we'll do is take our shrink wrap tubing and use that instead of tape here. So if you're using shrink wrap tubing, you're going to need a lighter. So we'll use the lighter to just kind of come close to this. You don't want to, roast it. Just kind of go back and forth a little bit. It's going to shrink around your wires. Until it reaches the point where it won't shrink anymore, and then you just start burning it. So get it on there pretty well. Seems okay. We're just going to tape it again anyway. So, as you can see, one line looks a lot better than the other. The shrink wrap looks more professional. The tape does the same job. It really won't matter which way you go. It's just personal preference and what your availability, or what, it's personal preference and, you know, what you have available to use at your disposal. So, I'm just going to take another piece of tape here. So remember, we've got the red wire connected to our black, which is in, and we've got our black wire connected to the green wire, which is the ground. Okay, I don't want you guys to get confused here, but I like to use green for ground whenever I can. So I'm just going to tape this all together. Okay, now that's on there pretty well. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, as long as you don't pull on it super hard, you won't have any problems. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and tape around this here if you feel like it, but I may use this again for something else and actually want to use those wires, so I'll just leave those hanging out like I've done here. Okay, so next thing we do is from here we can test it out. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'll show you with the other one first, that it does in fact turn on when I plug it in. Okay, remember, we have ground is our screw, and our hot wire is the third one going toward the cartridge. The closest one to where the cartridge sits is your live wire that needs the power. So we plug this into here, we plug this into here, and as you can see, my light came on. That means the power is on. Now, with this system, I don't have a switch hooked up to turn it off, because all I need to do is unplug it and it turns off. And if I need to reset, I can push this button here. This is my reset button. Okay. So as I'm circuit bending, sometimes I will touch two wires together and then I need to reset the system. Generally this reset button will work, but it does not kill power. There are two leads on one of these chips here that if you touch them together, it's actually going to kill power. I believe it's this, I think it's this chip. One of these, if you count the leads on here from 51 to 80, I think it's 72, maybe 77. One of these, when you, can you still see that red light? As you can see, when I push reset, it doesn't kill the light. It won't kill power to the system. But one of these, if I touch both of them at the same time, it's going to kill my power. There it is. See that? I've removed power completely from the circuit somehow by touching these two wires together. And as soon as you pull it back off, your power comes back on and it's a full reset, full system reset. It may be 77. I'm not for sure. I wrote it down somewhere, but that's not what this video is about. You guys can mess with that later. So what we want to do here is make sure this is going to work for the other system that we just opened. So I'll take this off of here, move this all over to the side, pull this console back out. Now, what you want to do is take your green, which is your ground, connect that first. You can just simply attach it to the screw here. Okay, the screw is your ground. If it doesn't want to click on that screw very well, you can click it to this piece of metal. You can clip it to something else that's metal that's going to ground it. Okay, I just like using the screw because that's what it's there for. It's to attach this 7805 well, this one's AN7805. The other one was MC7805. Either way, doesn't really matter. Same chip, same principle. You want to clip the ground on, and then you want to clip your hot lead wire onto the output. Okay? Now, since everything's connected, it should come on whenever I plug it back in. Check this out. Let's see if it works. Plug it in. And it did not work. Try it again now that we unplugged the switch. Still not working. Let's see if we even get power with the old switch, or old thing. This goes here. No, wrong one. Where is it? This goes here. Well, this one works just fine. Wonder what the deal is. Great, now it's broken. This thing's been falling apart for years and now it finally broke. So hopefully we can get it back to working condition because it's a huge pain in the ass. Let's try this cord with this system and see if we get the same result. See if it works now. Now it works. So something's wrong with our wiring here. Wonder if we have them backwards. Still no signal here. Wonder if it's the wire itself. We can try it backwards, but there's a good chance it's not going to work and it's going to mess something up. Who knows? Yeah, nothing doing. Okay, so back to the drawing board. Let's try this again. Something's not working. So let's use this one. I cut this one already earlier to demonstrate. Try this again. Black, white, green, red. We want the black and the red. Strip these wires like this. Okay, before we get it too far, we'll try this again. This time we're going black to red. The black's our hot line now. The green is our ground. I'll use red and black tape so I can remember what color the wires started out at first. So here's our red wire. We'll do black tape for the other one. It's usually better to cut these pieces of tape so they don't bunch up like that, but I'm already getting impatient since the first time our wire didn't work. try it again. Okay, we've got our black, which is our hot one. So let's attach the green one first to the ground. And then our black one next to the hot lead input, or the right side of our, as you can see here, we've got everything hooked up just like so. Ground is the screw. Your positive lead is the third pin, the one on the right side. Okay, let's try it now, see if it has power yet. It wanted to. It tried. There. There's a loose connection in here somewhere. It must be this old USB itself. Either way, you can see we have power. Okay. But like I said, our switch won't work anymore. Our on-off switch doesn't do anything. Okay. Your reset should still work, but you won't be able to do a hard system reset like I did here if you have these coverings on here still. Either way, you get the idea. I'm going to try that other cord one more time and see if maybe it was just a loose connection. So here's the one we tried a minute ago but didn't work. Our green's our ground. Black is our main. See if it was just loose. Huh. Yeah, this one's just not working at all. I wonder if it's... Try this one instead. No, nothing. Well, that's weird. Oh well. Since the plastic piece broke off on the inside of this, I'm actually going to hardwire that line in here. So I'll plug in my soldering iron here. And while this heats up, there's a good chance that whenever they made this wire, they had the colors switched around somehow. And our black and our red weren't really the ground and the hot. For now, I'm going to take these apart. See, this is part of the reason you don't want to put too much tape on these things, because it's a pain to try to get them off if you have to take them apart at some point. And this is a prime example. Started getting impatient, used too much tape, have to take them off again. But at least it worked. Okay, the reason I took the tape off here is because I'm actually going to burn a hole through the side of the system so we can run the wire directly in through the side or the back. Probably the back. So as you can see, if you look in this one, the plastic piece is still in there. See where my thumb is? On that DC 10 volt AC adapter in, the plastic piece is still there. But when I checked this one for power a minute ago, it broke off the plastic piece that was in here. So now there's just leads, metal leads, and it's going to be super loose if I try to plug in. It'll probably still work, but it's going to be super loose and maybe damage it further if I try to plug it in with the old original AC adapter. So what I'm going to do here is run a line in near the old one and then do the same thing I've got here. And then I'll just have two systems that are running from 5 volts instead of 10. Now I could have just made a giant hole and then run the lines through there, but this is going to look way better. So it's usually better to mark this type of thing before you just start burning holes, but I don't really feel like messing with it. But what I do want to do is get my little sponge. This nifty soldering kit that I have came with this little sponge here, so I usually like to soak the sponge a little bit. Don't need a whole bunch of water, just enough to where the sponge is going to soak it all up and be wet for rubbing stuff off. You can see I've got plastic on here from other things that I've done the same thing too. So like I said, it doesn't need to be soaked, but you know, the more water it'll hold, the better, I would assume. The longer it'll stay wet too. Okay, so we got our wet sponge, we got our Placebo soldering iron here. So, going to take my hot soldering iron. Anything that'll burn a hole in plastic you could use. You can use a wood burning kit, you can use a soldering iron, you could heat up a cut piece of hanger with a torch and shove it through there if you wanted to. So just make sure you got it all lined up where you want it to go, and it should be just fine if you want to poke a hole right here. So if you watch this, I'm just going to do it quickly. And then if there's any extra plastic on your tip, rub that off so it doesn't just continue to burn. Doesn't smell the best, and it's usually better to do this in a well ventilated area, but right now I don't have that option, so the fan's on, should be fine. I've probably inhaled much worse than that. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, now we have a nice little hole for our wire to run in. So we'll find the wire, which was this one, and we'll run all our wires through this little hole I just made. Might be easier to twist them all together first. Going in the hole. Now the best way to prevent this from pulling out of here is to put a knot in your line like so. Okay, just like that. So now you can pull on that all day and hopefully it's never going to come out of there. If you want to put another knot on this side, you can. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm just going to try to get this done. So if you want, you can just solder directly to your line here, but I am not that good at soldering, so I don't want to mess up my in SNES, or SNES, excuse me. I don't want to mess up my Super Nintendo by accidentally putting too much solder on something. I might try that over here for this one, but for now, I'm just going to show you what I do with these leads. Okay, so remember we had green for ground, which is our black line. Going to twist this. Actually, let's use that. We'll use that shrink wrap one more time. Seemed to work okay. Where'd those scissors go? Here we go. All right, cut this in half. In fact, let's put one over all of them. Like that. Put this on here. Okay, greens are ground, goes to black. Doesn't really matter what colors you use, but I like using green for ground whenever I can, just because the word ground starts with G and so does green. Okay. Oh, forgot to twist that a couple more times. Twist. Alright, Chubby Checker would be so proud. Next, we've got one more wire. Here we go. This little guy here. The black one is going to be our hot wire, so we twist these together like that. Do a little more twisting. Oops, I forgot the... Oh well, it won't matter. We're going to put a big one around the whole thing. So now we get our lighter and get that to shrink up a little bit. Then we'll put this baby over all of them. Hopefully it just slides right on there. Sometimes you just gotta give it a little extra push. Spin it a little bit. And we're starting to look pretty good. Okay, so we'll just singe this a little bit. Not too much, you don't want to burn the other wires that it's attached to. You can give it a little squeeze, make sure it's all tight, hunky-dory. Now, we should be able to give this another little test go here. Remember that our green is our ground. And let's see if we can run these through here. Okay, I just ran it through here so that it's not going to move around a whole bunch. Later I might add some hot glue or something to the inside here so it's not wanting to move around at all. But we want to test this first. So again, we hook our green one to the ground, which is our screw. Actually, let's try it this way. I'm gonna run it. Front to back. Okay, this goes here. Yeah, we really just want it to where it's not going to move around on us. It's not touching anything else. This one, I'm going to run under this wire. Maybe even a couple times. Okay, it's on there. Let's give it a go. Seems to be fairly stable. Try plugging it in again. And we are in business. So, good deal. Now all we have to do is, really we could close her back up. if you want to, you could wire this switch here into one of these lines. Into your black line here. You'd unplug it from here. You'd cut the plastic piece off. You'd have your 2 wires hanging out, and you'd put 1 wire on one side and the other wire on the other side, and it should work. Actually, let's just do it. I'll just show you how it's done. Watch this. I used my other switch on something else. Might as well just leave it where it is. We can cut this here. Those won't do anything anymore. We need to strip these. One and 2. You'll cut this guy off. Strip him down. Strip this end down. These you are going to want to twist, but the ones that are attached to the switch here are just single wires, so there's no reason to twist. Okay. It says positive on the red one and negative on the black one, so I'm just gonna assume that my red one needs to be on this side. It may work, it probably works both ways, but one of the ways it's going to be backwards, I think, in your switch. And it just means when you push power on, it'll turn it off, and when you power it off, it'll turn it on. So let's see if we have it going the right way now. We take this guy, put him here. And then before we tape anything, we'll see if I've got it hooked up right. Make sure these are not touching each other or anything that's going to ground. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this, because it's hard enough for me to see it in person. Okay, so our line is coming in, it splits, the green goes straight to our ground, our hot wire comes in. These guys don't do anything anymore. In fact, you can pull that out if you want to. It won't matter. And then let's give it the old test-a-rooney. Plug it back in, see if it's going to work. Alright, we got power. And we got no power. So, good deal. On, off. Let's unplug this again. If I had thought about it in the first place, I would have put some of that shrink tubing on here, but I really am over it. If anybody out there actually does this project, leave a comment. Let me know how it goes for you. Or if you have any questions, I'll do the best I can to answer. If you like this kind of thing, I might do more videos like this. I just don't have a lot of space to where it makes it very easy to show you how to do projects like this. Maybe eventually, if enough of you guys like these videos and subscribe to my channel and all that junk, maybe eventually I can afford my own workspace to do better videos. But at this point, that is a pipe dream, and I cannot guarantee something like that. So I really just want to show you guys that this is possible and how to do it in an easy, at least the easiest way I can think of to show you how to do this. As long as your clip here isn't touching any of the metal around it, you can always take a wire and just wrap it straight to that thing, to your 7805. You could do that, but these alligator clips tend to hold up fairly well as long as you don't, you know, shake around your console a whole bunch or, you know, drop it. If you just put it on the shelf and leave it there, you shouldn't have any problems. And even if you want to move it around a little bit, shouldn't have any problems. Once this case gets closed, not much is going to affect. Like, you can shake this around and my alligator clips aren't going to move as long as I don't, you know, violently drop it. And worst comes to worst, all you got to do is take it back off and hook your leads back up to the right spot if it stops working on you. I am actually going to hot glue this. I really should have used a longer cord, but I don't care that much. You can always make it longer later. Right now, I just want to get it closed up. I think we're ready to go. Let me double check to make sure it still works. Didn't loosen anything too much. Alright, Yahtzee. Get my glue gun out here. While this warms up, switch over to here for a minute. Now, as you can see, I've done a few things here to this one. Besides just take out your on-off switch that's here, I have taken off the metal guards that protect these pieces here, or these computer chips. And I've also originally, this piece here ran up through the front side of this thing, but I took it out, pulled it out, and then now it just runs out of the top. So not a whole lot to explain on these things otherwise. Over here is your sound card. This part actually unplugs from your system here. Should just plug right back in. There's really no reason you should probably need to take that out unless you're replacing it for some reason. I would suggest not taking off this piece just because under there are a few components, like a capacitor. It may have enough juice in it to give you a shock if you accidentally touch it. You should be fine to touch any of this metal part, but I really wouldn't take this off if you don't have to, especially since it's housing your most important pieces. If you're wanting to circuit bend a Super Nintendo, your best chips to mess around with are probably these two right here. Touching one lead to another. You can use, I like to use the multimeter tool. If you touch one and then touch another while the system's on, you can get some interesting effects. I haven't decided yet if I'm actually going to try and solder anything together. I just wanted to see what kind of effects I could get by touching different leads together. And that's how I burnt out this chip in the first place. I had this whole thing pulled out and flipped upside down. And while it was upside down, I touched two of these. I touched two pieces together on this chip from the other side here and completely fried the chip so it wouldn't work at all. I thought at first that I had screwed up the system, and so I had to figure out a better way to, well, I just had to figure out a way to even get it to turn back on, and this is the best way I could think of, or best way I could figure out from a few different people's speculations on the internet saying that technically it's possible, but they couldn't figure out why anybody would want to do it. But I can think of several reasons. Like just now when I broke this piece off in this one, I wasn't even going to do all that, but since I broke this piece, like, why not? I mean, there wasn't a better option really. So if that, if that chip goes out for you somehow, this is one way to fix it. If you just get tired of having to find these types of plugs all the time to plug stuff in, you can wire lots of stuff the same way as long as your device runs off the same amount of power that you're giving it. And off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what voltage this reduces your 10 volts to. It might be 3.3 or 5 or 7 or something, but 5 works just fine. I've had no problems. So looks like my glue gun's ready to go. I'll pull this down. Doesn't look like it's gonna move after I put some hot glue in here. And as long as you don't touch your hot point to the wires, should be fine. yeah, just don't touch the hot tip to these wires because it's gonna melt off there. You don't want to use too much glue because it'll take forever to dry, but you want to use enough to where it holds your wires in place. So I may have gone a little overboard, but all you have to do is, can you see that? If you look in there, I've hot glued all around it. Just giving it a little blow dry. And once this hardens completely, shouldn't move again unless you want it to and you peel it off yourself. So I'm just going to hold this for a minute until it won't move anymore. It's still moving around a little bit, so probably used a little too much glue, but that's okay. Just put a little bit on the side here. Alright, now it's starting to not move around. Wow, I just noticed a difference in color between these two consoles. One of them's gray and one of them's like a taupe kind of. Okay, so double check one more time. Actually, probably unplug the hot glue gun. Double check, make sure we got power. Bingo. Now, all we have to do is put on our lid. And we should be in business. Potentially you could put some hot glue on these parts here if you wanted to. But I don't think it's necessary, and I don't want to make any messes at this point, so I'm just gonna put my lid on here. Make sure your power switch is aligned with whatever position your switch is. So if your switch is off, you want your power switch to be off. Maybe a little tricky. Something seems to be in my way. It's probably one of these wires here. Getting in the way of something that has to sit there. Oh, yep. Seems like it's on there and it's not going anywhere. I was covering up this screw hole here. That's what my problem was. Okay, so double checking again, make sure we still have power when we turn it on. We're still good there. Try this again. Oh yeah, like butter. Okay, so now that it's on there, you want to carefully flip this upside down to put the screws back in. Okay, we'll find all our screws real fast. I think it's upside down from how it was earlier. We'll still go 1 through 6, so let's try. When you're putting these back in, make sure you don't cross thread anything. If it doesn't go in straight and easy the first time, it's not in there right. You don't want to give it, you don't want to force it. Okay, you'll strip these screws out. You won't be able to open it again. Last one. she works. Boom. Red light means she's working. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. Just kidding. Like, subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'd hate to waste anybody's time rambling. Until next time, this has been the Film Doctor.